Hey everybody, Bruce here with a video for slide deck number 4, getting started with the DOM. So let's get started. The topics covered in this video, in this slide deck, are going to be the DOM, the Document Object Model, and then how to use JavaScript to access and modify the DOM. And then we're going to explore various JavaScript methods you can use, including querySelector, querySelectorAll, getElementById, and getElementsByClassName. All right. Also, we're going to be talking about the innerText property, the innerHTML property, the class list method, the class list.add method, the class list.remove method, the class list.toggle method, and the style property. So let's talk about the DOM, and I think we did a bit of this during Module 1, and essentially it's a tree representation of your web page, and I think I showed you that when we viewed the page source, right, we were able to expand and collapse various elements on the web page, and this is kind of that same thing here. And here is another example as well, and you can see that while we don't look at our HTML like this, this is the way the browser is looking at your HTML. It's called the Document Object Model. All right, so let's start and let's talk about the querySelector method. This is going to return to you a single object from the Document Object Model, and I'll refer to it from now on as the DOM. So if you look at the code line that says const element equals document.querySelector and then selectors, what this is going to do is going to find whatever you're trying to select, just like you do in CSS, right? When you have a CSS selector, whether it's an element name, a class name, an ID, or whatever, right? It will, apply the style rule that you defined in your CSS to that selector. Now, what this bit of JavaScript code does is it will go into the DOM and find a particular element and store it in a variable called element. Now, element is just a random variable name that I created for these slides. It could be para, it could be dog, it could be whatever you want, all right? So again, I'm going to show you how this works in a second. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty like we have here, but just know this is going to return one thing. If there are 5 paragraphs in your HTML page and you only want to get the first one, let me say that again. If you have 5 paragraphs in your HTML page and you tell this line here, document.querySelector, in fact, I believe I have it here. See this right here? This is going to return the first paragraph it finds, okay? The first paragraph it finds, and it's going to assign it to the variable para, all right? So again, if you have 5, this line of code right here is only going to return the first paragraph it finds, okay? And it's going to assign that particular element in the DOM, which is actually an object, to this variable para. The next thing says document.querySelector # hero. And this is saying go into the DOM and find the element with the ID of hero. And as you know, only one element can have an ID of hero on a particular page. And this last line of code, para document.querySelector.hero, will find the first element on the page, right, that has the class name of hero. So let me do this. Let's go into Visual Studio Code and I have it up here. Let me make it full page, full screen. And I'm going to put a paragraph in here, and I'm going to put in it some, actually, let me just put a paragraph. I'm going to say this is the first paragraph, and I'm going to put a second paragraph. This is the second paragraph. In fact, let me just do a third paragraph with an ID of, what was the ID we were using here? Hero, right? And then I'll say this is the third paragraph with the ID of hero. Okay, and then I'll do one more, right? Paragraph dot hero, and then this is the fourth paragraph with the class of hero, right? I keep typing here. So I have 4 paragraphs. And I'm going to go to the bottom here, and I'm going to do all my script within this file to keep it easier for you. So I'm going to type script, and then I'm going to do constant para equals, go into the document, and querySelector, and then P, right? P. And if I console.log out para, we're going to get something. So check this out. Right click, open with live server. There is our beautiful page. And if I bring up the what do you call it, the JavaScript console, you can see here it logged out the paragraph with the text, this is the first paragraph, right? All right. So you see what that did there? If I change this to pound hero, what do you think is going to come back? Look carefully. Is it going to be this paragraph, this paragraph, this paragraph with the ID of hero, or the one with the class of hero? Ready? Here we go. There it is. So we were able to use JavaScript to go in and locate, right, that particular paragraph that had the ID of hero. Awesome. And if I change it to dot, again, just like you do in CSS selectors, check it out. We're getting the 4th paragraph now with the class of hero. All right, so I'll just leave that code there so you can see it. Okay, we don't need, actually, for simplicity, we're not going to be using the bootstrap. So I'm just going to take it out for now. We don't need it for here. And I'll take out that line. And there we go. I can take out this line too. I think you know this is JavaScript. So I'll leave that right there. Make sure you you experiment on your own with this stuff. Don't only watch me doing it. All right, let's carry on. Let's go back to the slides. And I just showed you this. And I'll try to do that as I go through the deck. I'll try to, show you some live coding when I can. So this particular method, querySelectorAll, is going to return what we call an element list. So check this out. We're going to use the same format, okay? We'll get to this parent node.querySelectorAll shortly, but check this out. Check this out. Let's just leave this here. Let me just comment it out. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to say constant paras, because we're going to be getting more than one. Again, that's just a variable name. You could call it anything you want. I'm going to say, hey, document. I'm going to say querySelectorAll. And then for the selector, I'm going to say P for paragraphs, right? And then we'll repeat the same thing that I did before. Log out to the console for now, because we're just learning the paras. And let's see what we have. Here we go. Ready? Go back to my browser. We get what's called a node list, which is actually an array of the paragraphs. Here's the first paragraph, second paragraph, the one with the ID of hero, and the one with class of hero. And you can see here element 0, right, is the first paragraph. And this is all of the information the DOM knows about this particular paragraph. Like, there's a ton of stuff here. But I'll tell you, check this out. innerHTML, and innerText. Pay attention to those. innerHTML and innerText. Okay? And then also, let me just scroll down here. You can see there's a lot of stuff it knows about that one paragraph. Just think about that. Okay? Let that sink in. Let me just look at this. Just look. Right? And then, ooh, style. So it knows some style information about that paragraph as well. Look at this. Look at this. Background position, background image, background color, all the possible things that can be applied to that particular paragraph. And then I'll go to the paragraph here. See, it's highlighting it in the on the page there. I can do the same thing with the second paragraph, the first paragraph, which is actually the second paragraph. And yeah, so just imagine, right, that we're writing some code to manipulate a web page, and we can go in and query just like we do in CSS, right? All of the paragraphs, right? All of the paragraphs. What if we gave it a tag it didn't have, like section, right? What do you think's going to come back? Nothing. See, it's an empty array because there are no sections, right? What if we do an IMG, right? IMG, right? Same thing, right? What if we do HTML? Oh, we get a lot of stuff. Look at this, right? So how about that? All right. What about body, right? What about body? We get this, right? All right. So let's go back to the slide deck and see what we get. So we got an element list back, right, which was an array, right, of DOM elements, right, or things that we were able to identify in the inside of the document object model. Now, notice down here it says returns a non-live node list containing one element object for each descendant node. Think of your HTML and how it's all interrelated, parents, children, etc., that matches at least one of the specified selectors. And we've been only using one selector now. Okay, just so you know, we've only been using one, but you can, apply multiple ones in here, just so you know. Okay, so it gave us back what we call a node list, and you'll hear me say that a lot in class. Now, we'll return the first paragraph. We did this already. querySelectorAll. So this is going to return all of the paragraphs. This is going to return all of the paragraphs that have the class of hero. And right now, right, if I do that, if I go back to hero here, dot hero, right, how many paragraphs have the class of hero right now? Only one, right? It's got a length of 1. But if I did go into the HTML, and since it's a class, and I actually gave this one a ID and a class, which you can do, right? We're going to get 2 now. It's going to be able to find two elements, right? Pretty nifty. Think about it. This is going to be fun. Now, how do we, when we get, right, this collection of objects, right, how do we iterate through it, right, loop through it and do stuff with it, right? So check out the text here, the screenshot here, right? So I'm going to mimic what this is doing in what do you call it? In Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to comment this stuff out here. Okay, I'm going to comment this stuff out here, and I'll actually do the same code. Constant all elements. That's just a variable name. It's saying, hey, document, query selector all everything. That asterisk means everything, 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 everything. Okay, query selector all asterisk. And then what we're going to do, this is new, all right? This is new. This is a type of loop that you've never ever seen before, and it's unique to JavaScript. So all elements dot for each, and then we could do stuff. But this is kind of new. What we're going to do is use something in JavaScript called an anonymous function. An anonymous function, which means you create a function, right, but you don't give it a name. So you don't give it a name. It's just a function with no name. It's anonymous. Now, don't ask me why it's anonymous and why it's this way, but essentially, we can iterate through that node list of all the things that got returned from line 21, and we can be given one element of it at a time. An element is just something I chose. I could have called it E, I could have called it thing, but just for now, I'm calling it element, okay? And within these braces, right, we can do stuff, right? We can log out to the console, right, and using a template string here. No, it's a template string. We're going to say the element, okay, not the variable, the element that we are iterating through is $, because we're using a template string. We put in these flying seagulls, these braces, and then we put element, which is the thing we're given during each iteration of the loop. So when I run this now, when I run this now and go to my browser, look what it's doing. It's giving me a printout, right, of each one of these quote-unquote objects that it's finding, right? Actually, I should have done this. Element dot. Now, this is an object, right? It's a paragraph, it's an image, it's a section, it's a div, whatever it may be. And I'm going to print out the inner. Did I do text or HTML on that slide? I did innerText. And there's a difference. The text is the text between the tag. The innerHTML is going to be any HTML as well. So ready? Here we go. We're printing out the element and the inner text that's inside of it. So here we go. Back to Chrome. Look at this. Look at this. It's printing out. Let me clear this. Okay, let me run the page again. Look at it's doing. It's printing out all of the various things on the page and the text inside of it, including the page title, including all this stuff. Look at this. Look at all of this stuff. Sorry, this is one element here. This is the first paragraph. This is the second paragraph. Now look at this. Page title and then the elements, right? It's actually telling you what line, right, in the actually this is 23. This is the loop. That's printing this stuff out. It's even printing out the JavaScript that's in the script tag. Look at this. It's actually getting to this stuff right here and printing out all of this text, including the comments that's inside of it. Because in code, we are iterating through every single HTML element. If I change this just to P, I think this would be a little better. Paragraph, you can see here it is. This is the first paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph, fourth paragraph, right? If I want to just select all of the dot heroes, all of the elements with the class dot hero, how many do we have? 1, 2, and there is the text inside of each one of those paragraphs. How about that? Got it? Pretty nifty. All right. So let's carry on. Now, I don't use getElementById much anymore because I don't know if you've noticed that when we used querySelector with an ID, this is a newer version of getElementById. So what can be done instead of writing like, remember we had here like this? Let me change this back to, by the way, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with me putting #hero and querySelectorAll? Anybody? Right, that's right. We're using querySelectorAll, but we're only targeting one ID, right? So we would want to use here, let me just comment this line out here, right? Check this out. I'm going to say constant, what should I call it? Element equals document dot get, look, element by ID, and here you just type the ID, which would be hero. So it's a little bit different, right? It's a little bit different, right? Okay, actually, I'm going to move this down here so we can keep this all together. Okay, so let's look at this constant, and then I could do this. Console.log element.innerText. And let's see what this prints out. Back to the browser. And that prints out the information for the element with the ID of hero. So again, this is a method that's been around a really long time, but it's still there, but I prefer to use querySelector and the hash sign hero. Here, when you do it this way, this is only specific to do one thing, to get elements by ID, to get elements by ID. querySelectorAll can get things by tag name, by class name, by IDs, by anything. It's like what do you call it? A multi-purpose, a Swiss Army knife or something like that, right? Does that make sense? Yes, Bruce? All right. So that's what getElementById does. It gets one thing, and again, should I use querySelector or getElementById? So there's a really good Stack Overflow, discussion about this. All right, just so you know. Okay, and it's in the slide deck for you to go back and look. All right, getElementsByClassName. Now, we did this with querySelector, right? querySelectorAll. We were able to go and find all of the elements on a web page that had a particular class name using querySelectorAll. Again, before we had this Swiss Army knife called querySelector and querySelectorAll, we used to use getElementsByClassName. Okay, so again, it's the same type of thing, right? I prefer to use querySelector and querySelectorAll. All right. The innerText property. This one I showed you before. Once you get a handle to an object, right, an element in the DOM, if you append to it .innerText, like I did here, you're going to get the text inside of that element. Now, I heard somebody say, Bruce, what happens if I do this? If I put a strong tag in here, right? See that right there? I'm putting a strong tag on line 11 right to here, right? And let's change our query. Let's do it again. Let's do this. Let's do constant p equals document querySelector, and then let's say get the first paragraph. Okay, get the first paragraph. There it is on line 29. Okay, and then I'm going to log out to the console, print out to the console, p.innerText. So do you think that strong tag is going to appear in the console from paragraph number 1 here? Let's take a look. Go to Chrome. Nope, it's not there because we are only displaying the inner text. If I go now in Rob and duplicate, copy, and change this property to innerHTML, notice I now get the text and any HTML that's inside of that text. All right, innerHTML and innerText. Know those two properties. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I can also set the innerHTML, right, or the inner text. So let me do it. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to log anything out here. Okay. What I'm going to do is say, hey, paragraph, we're getting the first paragraph, query selector. It's going to find the first one. Set your inner text to I like pizza, right? So it's going to find it, get a handle to that object, and then set its inner text to I like pizza. And let's go to Chrome and look right here. I like pizza. So I modified the DOM. I modified the first paragraph that was in the DOM. What if I wanted to go back to Visual Studio Code and then take the paragraph and set its inner HTML to I like strong pizza. Strong. Okay. Just like that. Ready? Here we go. Back to Chrome. Look what it did. I injected text and HTML into that paragraph from JavaScript. What do you think of that? So I can change the text of an element, or I can change the HTML of an element, which includes the text. I know, I see everyone's heads are, wow. Just with a little script here, right? JavaScript. Script here. Script. Okay? We're not writing a lot of code to do various things, right? Cool, eh? All right. The style property. The style property. And now we're talking about CSS, right? So could I now take that paragraph and change its style, say the color of it, to pound red, FF0000, right? Back to Chrome. Yes, I can. I was able to change, right, the style information. In fact, I heard somebody say, Bruce, can you change that paragraph in JavaScript, the style of the font size? Notice how I'm writing font size there. You need to look that up on the web because it's not like font dash size. It's font size like that. And I'll make it 3 root M's. 3 root M's. And I go back and you can see it's 16 times 16. Actually, I need to go back to actual size. So this is 48. 32 plus 16. 48 pixels high. Okay? See what we're doing? See what we're doing? And someone's like, Bruce, can we change the background? And look, they're here for you, right? The background color, the background position, all these CSS properties. Okay? So can I change the background color? You bet. Let's change it to, I don't know. We'll just do pink for now. Don't yell at me. Okay? And there we go. So programmatically, right? We're not changing the style sheet. We're changing the style information. It's kind of like inline styles because I heard someone ask, I don't know who it was, but if I go to inspect, you're going to see that JavaScript right here. See this paragraph with the inline style? That's what JavaScript is doing. Whoops. That's what JavaScript is doing. It's changing it and adding that paragraph in line. It can't touch your style sheet. So this is kind of the only way it can do it. All right. This is the only way it can do it. All right. So let's see where we're at. Let's see. So again, you could put stuff like this in. You could actually set an attribute of style and do it this way. I don't prefer this way, but or you could just do it the way I do it, the simple way: element.style and then the CSS property. All right. just because I say I don't do it this way doesn't mean you should not learn how to do it this other way. Give it a try. Pause the video and go back in and change, p.style.css text. Change it to this big string of stuff. This allows you to change multiple things at once. Okay, it's pretty cool. All right. All right, neat stuff. So that is the end of this slide deck 4. If I were you, what I would do is go back and play it again, because this thing right here on lines 22 and 23 is something you're going to be using a lot. You take the object that you queried that has multiple elements, and then you iterate for each one using this thing called an anonymous function, where it gives you from that array, that list, one thing at a time, and then you could do with that thing anything you want. Maybe you're changing some text in it. Maybe you're changing the color. And eventually, maybe you're injecting additional HTML. Maybe a small icon, picture next to maybe a file, link to a file or something like that. So, yeah. All right. So I hope this video helped clarify some of the things in slide deck number 4. And we'll be doing more of this stuff in class. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in class.